Let's begin this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Ryan Hammond.
Here.
Mayor Holly Smith. Fran Mai. Councilwoman Darla Long. Pamela Cronin.
Here.
Jay Johnson.
Here.
Rob Wells.
Here.
Bill Washington.
Morning.
Ryan Kramer. Councilman Bill Sankey.
Here.
Councilman Larry Kiesel.
Here.
Councilman Nigel Bullock.
Here.
Mayor Dan Allard.
Here.
Fran Myers and Ryan Kramer are excused. We do have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. The first item of business on today's agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Does anybody wish to discuss or make any corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing no discussion, does somebody wish to make a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, the motion is from Mayor Smith and the second is from Councilmember Johnson. Do we have any discussion? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. At this time, we will take up the public to be heard. Would you raise your hand if you've come to speak in public comment today, and we'll call you up to the podium? All right, I see no public to be heard then. Behind me? Okay, yeah. Feel free to head up to the podium. And when you get up there, just say your name for the record. Perfect.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Wilson with Edison and Ford Winter Estates. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, you sound
Just want to let everybody know that we have our annual vintage baseball game at Terry Park coming up on March 26th. So for all of you baseball fans, come on out and see that. And then on the 24th and 25th, we're going to have some baseball presentations at our site, and that'll be included with admission. And Holly Schaefer, our program manager, is going to talk about the connection between Edison and Terry Park and spring training, a history of spring training here in Fort Myers. So we're really excited to be able to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
excellent. Thank you very much. Has anyone else come to be heard this morning? Okay, very good. At this time, we'll close public to be heard, and we'll move to municipalities to be heard. Are there any municipalities? All right, go ahead and please approach the podium. Good morning. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sharon Woodbury, Economic and Business Development Officer for the City of Cape Coral. And I just wanted to come share some exciting events and projects that we've got going on in the City of Cape Coral. So if you don't mind, for a few minutes, we'll talk about our recent grand opening. And in December of 2022, Gator Mike's, which is a family attraction, they made a significant investment and went with a dinosaur-themed mini golf course and 22-foot volcano that, as you can see, there's real fire there, but great show for the kids, and with all of the other activities that they have there, zip lining, go-karts, so much to do for the family, and we wanted to let everyone know that that's there for their luxury experiences, luxury for kids. And then I wanted to talk about the Lake Kennedy. An $11 million budget for a center that we're really excited about. We want to feed into that pickleball craze as well. And so as part of this project, there will be 32 pickleball courts. That's a part of this project, along with 12 tennis courts. There's some covered seating, lighting that will be there. We are really excited about this, and we are looking forward to it being an attraction for tourists and drawing in people. And so we'll have our groundbreaking for this on March 24th.
Is that going to be covered under the Parks GO bond? Is that how you guys are paying
Yes.
for that? Yeah, perfect. Okay.
So we wanted to also highlight the Yacht Club. And while we had a reset in terms of what the vision looks like for the Yacht Club after Hurricane Ian, we still want to build on the concept that was arrived at for the Yacht Club. And so as a part of this, we will see an expanded beach, the boat ramp relocation. There will be a replacement of the seawall, and we'll be having a parking garage to accommodate all of the additional visitors that we're expecting there. So while we are still kind of envisioning what this looks like and council is getting input from our residents, we see a lot of opportunities for P3 and additional dining there. Certainly the favorite Boathouse Tiki Bar will still be there, the restaurant, and we're expecting that it will be opening next month sometime. COVID 47th. This is an exciting project that we'll see happening in downtown Youngstown. They've already broken ground on August 24th, but this is going to change the landscape of downtown Cape Coral. $103 million investment, 327 luxury units. There will be some retail space and some great restaurants there. And as a part of this, there will be a 585 stall parking garage. So we will be expanding our parking for the public. It will not just be for this particular space, but as we're growing and as we have new investments happening, we want to make sure that we can accommodate all of our new visitors. So we really see this as a catalyst for downtown Cape Coral. We're hoping that we'll draw in an additional demographic while we have some. As far as coming to downtown Cape Coral for a nightlife and entertainment. In Bimini Basin. So council just approved a PUD, and that's just the planning component of what activities will be there. But this is a project starting at $55 million. We are very confident that it will get past $55 million. But as a part of this project, we'll have a waterfront restaurant, another parking garage, 500 stall, 190 residential units, retail units, and Lee Health has signed a lease to occupy a portion of this space. So we are expecting this will be an 18 to 24-month project, but certainly, again, really significant projects that we have happening. And while we do not have very many waterfront opportunities for dining, this will step into a space that we're really excited to see. We expect that there will be some additional, some boat slips put there. So you'll be able to visit this by land or water. And I just wanted to talk about a few events that we have coming up. On March 25th, we have the Sound of Jazz and Blues. That's being hosted by our Parks and Rec Department. We invite everyone to come and experience great music and food. And before I conclude, I just wanted to talk about a few other projects or activities that we have. So Sunsplash Water Park will be opening for its 2023 season on March 18th. We have our South Cape St. Patrick's Day Trolley event that's happening tomorrow. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our Catch the Vision that we had this past Monday. It was a sold-out crowd, and we had 600 people there excited. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, thank you very much. Have any other municipalities come to? Any other municipalities come to speak? Okay, very good. Thank you. Really excited to hear about all those things going on in good old Cape Coral. At this time, we'll go to the report of the Executive Director, Ms. Pygott.
Thank you very much. Bed tax collection for the month of January came in at $4.28 million. That is down 44% compared to last year. And for the fiscal year to date, we're at 25.15 million, down 41.3% versus last year. In terms of the STAR occupancy report for January, occupancy was just under 80%, ADR at 208, and RevPAR at 166. Those are all increases over the same period last year. Key data, keeping in mind, of course, that there's a smaller number of units. I probably always need to clarify that while we're going through these challenges. Key data dashboard is reporting an occupancy on our vacation rentals at 33%, ADR at 223, and RevPAR at 73%. Of course, all of those numbers are down, but we have discussed this a little bit. A key data dashboard is catching up on the vacation rental units. I think they are listing more units as available than technically are. Passenger activity at the airport for January, just under 1 million passengers through the airport. That's a 10.7% decline compared to last year. And of course, they operate on the calendar year, so that 1 month equals the whole year to date. Very quickly, I'm just going to share with you our final calendar year, the top line in terms of visitation, remembering, of course, that for the first 3 quarters, we were on banging on all cylinders. And then, of course, after Hurricane Ian, that last quarter, we faced some challenges. Visitation for the year was down 5.4% at 4.4 million visitors. Visitor days, however, was up 28 million visitor days versus 27 the previous year. Room nights down slightly, 1.9%, over almost 6.3 million room nights sold. Direct expenditure by visitors, $4.1 billion, up 10.9% over the previous year. Of course, inflation had a little to do with that, and higher room rate for sure. And therefore, of course, the economic impact was also up. The direct visitor expenditure is no multiplier. The total economic impact, assumes that those dollars as they transverse through our community at almost 6.6 million. TDT collections for the calendar year up almost 6% at 60.9. Typically, we report those to you on fiscal year, but for the purposes, since everything else here was calendar year, we went ahead and did that calculation for the calendar year. So
I had a question on that real quick.
Yes, sir.
If you go back. So the total economic impact, $6.5 billion number. When I first got to the commission back in like 2013, 2014 timeframe, I think I became TDC chair in 2015. Were we talking about that number being like 2.8 billion back then?
I think the direct expenditure was 2.8, and we had a goal of 3 billion, if you'll remember, and you see 4.1. But you're correct. We were under 3 billion on direct expenditure. So those numbers have really, soared the last few years for sure.
So, we've got a lot of elected folks in the room too here. As I'm talking to the legislature and people in Washington as well about why it's so important to help us get money to make sure our beaches are restored and make sure our tourism economy can come back, I'm talking to them about the fact that we are part of Florida's growth story. We have contributed greatly to the overall economy in Florida, and we're one of the reasons why Florida has a giant surplus as they go into planning their budget year this year. I mean, everything in Florida is doing well, and we were too. I think we're the second fastest growing county in the entire state, and so, we're not usually up there asking them for a lot. Obviously, we just got hit by the 5th largest hurricane in the U.S. history, and we were part of Florida's growth story. When you see that we've gone from 2.8 billion in direct expenditures to 4.1 billion in just a matter of less than 10 years, we've paid into the system, and we're not, we certainly appreciate anything they can send back our way to help us recover and get back on track, because we're a good investment. We'll continue paying into their system and helping the greater success of the state of Florida. So That's been my mantra as I go and talk to them, and I think it's been received really well as I've talked to folks in Tallahassee and Washington too. So thanks, Tim.
Absolutely. Before I ask Brian to come up and give you, I'm going to give you a little overview of the visitor origin. I wanted to show you this slide primarily to show that, now that some of the restrictions have been lifted, we are seeing our international numbers start to come back. For the full calendar year of 2022, about 10% of our visitors were international, 90% domestic, and of course the Midwest dominated that. But I think the good news is we are starting to see our international visitors return to not only our area but the state of Florida. So just wanted to point that out. And again, before I call Brian, sorry.
And forgive me for not remembering correctly. If we look back at last calendar year in 21, do you remember what West was as far as the percentage of? Have we seen an increase from the direct flights to Seattle, LA, San Francisco?
Correct. Those numbers are up.
And do you know how much? No?
I'm sorry, not off the top of my head, but I'll follow up with you. But yeah, no, there's definitely an increase. Maybe we can look that up while we're having another conversation. While someone else is speaking, I'll take a peek and let you know what those numbers look like from the previous year. But no, definitely, anytime we have a direct flight, that makes an inordinate difference in activity. Of course, the pandemic, a little bit of a challenge, but I think the message there, the Midwest clearly traveled to our area this past year. The Northeast has been off a little bit, but I think, their reaction to the pandemic was a little bit different. But definitely we've seen growth from the West, and I think that will continue with the flights.
Thank you.
Ben, I think you would probably agree. All right. Last but not least, I just want to give you an update on where we are with hotel rooms. Staff is communicating with the hotels as they're bringing rooms back online. And as of early last week, the number was 9,825 hotel rooms that have reopened in the area, which is 68.6% of our pre-EN hotel count. So I think we're going to get real close to that 70% number, and we're going to hover there for a while. But we know we have some more units that are opening, and we're keeping a close eye on those. So with that, I'm going to ask Brian to come up and give us an update on our marketing efforts.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner, members of council. For the record, my name is Brian Osowski, Marketing Director for the Visitor and Convention Bureau, and will provide this morning's marketing update. I want to quickly start by taking a look back at the marketing roadmap that we put together immediately following Hurricane Ian. As you may recall, the first phase we called Hope and Resilience. Basically, we remained humble, thankful, and informational, and at that time, we're not inviting visitors. Then in the second phase that we're wrapping up now, we call Curiosity and Admiration. We've really begun turning things back on, engaging more on a traveler level, beginning really to drive destination awareness again, consideration, and of course, winter visitation. But now we're moving on to the next phase that we've all really been looking forward to. It's called Excitement and Anticipation, where we're back in the market with our marketing in a much bigger way. We're targeting our loyalists, yes, but also our target personas who have shown us a propensity to travel. They're pretty much ready to go. So we're encouraging travelers to explore the destination they know and love in areas that are ready to welcome them. Some to improve. And of course, always important to continue to increase consideration and the oh so important visitation. So I'll spend most of the time this morning sharing our consumer approach for the rest of this fiscal year, but quickly on the international front, we will continue to prioritize Canada, Germany, and the UK. Our co-op opportunities for our partners remain intact, and we are holding back some resources for another potential partnership with Eurowings. For the wedding markets, again, partner co-op is in here. We'll avoid too many beach focuses too soon for the weddings market. We were actually able to keep the placements that we were working on before the storm intact, so we just shifted our timing and realigned our content around the new campaign. We'll be partnering with the Bridal Guide, the Knot, and Honey Fund. And then for meeting planners, again, I keep leading with partner co-op opportunities because that's important. And following suit here, we were also able to readjust all of our placements and timing. So on to consumer. We have prioritized only the media opportunities that give us the most value, the highest return on investment, the biggest bang for the buck. So all of our messaging has been realigned under the new campaign. We're going to be focusing a lot on our inland itineraries and, again, keeping those co-op opportunities available for partners. We also have a dedicated in-state strategy for summer moving into fall. So our recovery campaign is, of course, under the My Fort Myers umbrella. And here are some of the media investments that we're making heading into the summer season. Again, we're really ramping things up. So starting with Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, we're reaching travelers at all planning stages of the funnel and really focusing on our efforts that are going to drive engagement. We always like to feature a nice mix of assets like vertical video and multi-image carousels. We just have so many rich and diverse stories out there to tell, and social media is really the place that we can do that. We'll also conduct a brand lift study on our recovery efforts in Q3, and I want to take you on a quick tour here, a couple of our most recent Instagram Reels that our team has produced. Both of these, incidentally, have received over 90,000 views and counting so far. Go by pretty fast, but it touches a lot of different areas throughout our community, and this one from Sanibel Island. So through these series of videos, they're really quick hits, but again, we've been wanting to really share how the community is reopening and recovering, and the team's doing a fantastic job. With Pinterest, we're always on, similar to Meta. Here, we're focusing on seasonal content, and we also have a big focus on our neighborhood spotlights. And TikTok. On February 2nd, Leslie Ann and Brielle from my team launched our Visit Fort Myers TikTok channel, so shameless plug, please follow us if you haven't already done so. In addition to all those organic, vertically oriented videos, we'll be testing some in-feed ad units in Q3 and then making all the necessary adjustments as we head into fall. We have a fairly hefty broadcast package running with Visit Florida across Cox, Spectrum, and Verizon. This features national targeting and an awesome one-to-one match to really help stretch our budget. Thank you, Visit Florida, for stepping up and assisting with this package. With TripAdvisor, we're working on 3 new branded itineraries that, again, focus on inland activities, attractions, restaurants, and small businesses. Tiny Beans is another Visit Florida co-op that we're participating in May and June. It includes a dedicated email to their subscriber base, as well as a sponsored e-newsletter to the Atlanta market, which is a big drive market for families for summer travel. Tiny Beans is touted as the go-to resource for parenting, and of course, that includes family travel. With our friends at Dot Meredith, we'll promote, again, those inland itineraries through a couple of really cool custom content packages that we have, leading with Midwest Living this summer, and then we'll follow with Southern Living in the fall. You've heard me share a lot about the New York Times over the years. They always deliver for us. We are aligning our My Fort Myers concept through a web-based slideshow on their site in the style of tiny love stories, if you read the Times, which feature reader-submitted stories of no more than 100 words. So we'll also extend this concept into our podcast spots with the New York Times. In June, we're collaborating with Garden and Gun on a choose-your-own-adventure quiz based on traveler interests, and it ends with one of 4 itineraries based on their selections. This one comes with a lot of bells and whistles: social media amplification, an e-newsletter, a homepage takeover, and a full-page advertorial in their summer travel guide issue. With Matador this time around, we're highlighting the variety of golf activities throughout our area. And as we head into next year, we'll look to expand on our efforts with a pretty cool golf-themed partnership that's a little too early for me to talk about. And with the local palette, we will have a custom landing page on their website that features different restaurants throughout our area, kind of like a city guide. This package is also locked and loaded, features a lot of social media, e-news, digital display, and a full-page ad in the fall road trip issue that comes out on September 26th. So a little bit of show and tell this morning in terms of our creative assets. First, leading with our ambassadors featured in our print advertising. You see Rex there on the left. He is a frequent visitor and has been to every year of our Island Hopper Songwriter Fest. And on the right, Diana Stockbridge, who with her husband co-owns Gulf Coast Kayak. Rex's quote, "My Fort Myers is sun, sand, water, music, and great food served by some of the best servers I've ever met in my life. It's a place where I can sit back, relax, and forget about all the chaos in the world." Now introducing Evelyn and David. Evelyn is a resident and is one of our tourism ambassadors over at the airport, and David is an artist and a co-owner of the cafe over at the Arts Alliance. And David's quote says, "My Fort Myers is a source of inspiration. There's an immense energy of artistry and people that are brilliantly creative. You can find wonderful food, wonderful friends, and visit wonderful locations with so much to do and see." So we've shortened that messaging to optimize our social media placements. There on the left, you see Rex, "My Fort Myers is where I can sit back and relax." And Diana, "My Fort Myers is where I'm at one with nature." And the same goes for the variety of digital ad placements that we're churning out. And finally, I'm going to share some 15-second pre-roll videos with you this morning. And basically, the pre-roll videos are what play, say on YouTube, before they serve up the video content that you searched for. The first 2 examples, of course, featuring our ambassadors, show how the videos stand on their own. And then the third video can show how we can edit 2 of the 15-second spots together to create a 30-second spot, which is what we used as part of that Visit Florida package that I talked to you about a little bit earlier. So here we go. And again, those 15s go by pretty quickly.
My Fort Myers is a source of inspiration for many reasons. You can find wonderful food, just visit wonderful locations where there's so much to do and see, and we keep growing every day.
Well, my Fort Myers is a vacation in vacation. It's a nice, quiet, relaxing place. It is a paradise.
And then the 2 put together in the 30-second spot.
My Fort Myers makes me feel really kind of like that one with nature. It brings a sense of peace and tranquility. That is my Fort Myers.
My Fort Myers is a place where I can come, sit back and relax, forget about all the craziness around me.
There you have it. So in other team updates, that's our first batch of creative. I should mention that we have another production shoot coming up later this month here, just a couple of weeks, for our next 4 recovery ambassadors. So next time, I'll be able to share that creative with you as well. So just a few other items that the team has been working on. We completed 2 successful radio campaigns with WCCO Minneapolis and WEEI Boston around spring training. These packages also featured interviews with stakeholders about our ongoing destination recovery. Here you see our very own Jeff Milkey and a live radio interview over at Edison Ford Winter Estates. And then if you haven't yet seen the Twins equipment truck, you'll notice the Fort Myers brand and My Fort Myers hashtag are displayed prominently on each side of the equipment truck. We are working on a multi-year sponsorship deal with the Twins, and I'll keep you posted how that pans out. Wanted to also quickly share a glimpse of the new Cape Coral Quest scavenger hunt, if you haven't seen this yet. This is a really nice partnership with the city of Cape Coral that encourages visitors to explore more of the area that they just may not be as familiar with. So the promotional copy here says, grab your friends and family and put your head together to solve the riddles. Each location that you see scrolling here has a code placed somewhere on the property, either inside or out. Pay attention to the clues. Be sure to save your points or trade them in for the item that you want to win. Once you've solved 20 riddles, you'll be entered into the grand prize drawing to win a 2-night stay, including breakfast, at the Westin Cape Coral. Really fun promotion. So my quick list. Peter Greenberg. Peter Greenberg was here with his crew in August shooting a segment for his travel detective TV show called Hidden Gems. Of course, when the hurricane hit, most of that content and storytelling was unusable, so Peter and his crew graciously said, we're going to come back and shoot a special recovery episode instead of the Hidden Gems episode that will first be pushed out on social media and then air on PBS in the fall. Thanks to the communications team, this was a marketing initiative at first, but the communications team has taken over, and Ray Saraceno is actually out with Peter and the crew as we speak. Our Sunsaver Passport. This was our digital savings guide that we launched, a year or two ago, and we are bringing it back in time for summer season. It's going to be ready to launch next month. Vanessa Gomez on my team is leading the charge on this, so if your business would like to participate with a discount, or if you know of someone who would like to participate, please point them in our direction. In the same spirit of the passport, Vanessa is also working on a lodging deals roundup for us this summer. So a few years ago, we did a destination-wide offer. It was book 3 nights, get the 4th night free. And several of our partners are still using that each and every summer. So this isn't a destination-wide offer, but we did feel it was important that those lodging properties were open, had a place to promote any kind of incentives or discounts to visitors. We're going to house all of these in one place on the website and promote it. We're not telling partners what you have to offer. We're just saying make that deal available throughout the summer season. So if your property wants to participate in that, you're not already signed up, again, Vanessa Gomez on the marketing team will help you with that. Our digital visitor guide, Courtney Hersel on the marketing team is leading this charge. As you recall, we couldn't print our 2023 guide because there were just too many businesses offline after the storm. So this is our stopgap approach, basically. It's a digital visitor guide. It's very high level, but certainly still informational, and it will be easily delivered to folks via a QR code on a rack card until we can get back to our printed version. We also have a huge need to capture new photos and videos of the destination post-storm, so we're focusing on a ton of asset development moving forward. We have 2 agency production shoots, a bunch of social stuff coming up, and then we're also targeting 40 points of interest in the next few months, so a lot of new assets for us to use on the way. Then Nancy McPhee on my team is leading both of these placemaking initiatives. The first, neighborhood webcams. The VCB is installing owned and operated webcams in all of our neighborhoods throughout Lee County. Right now, we have 3 webcams live. We've done assessments of, I think, 4 or 6, half a dozen other locations. We have some equipment on order, and we look to launch with a minimum of 5 destination cams, 5 neighborhood cams next month. Nancy's also leading the charge on a neighborhood mural project. This is something that Tam has been talking to the marketing team about for a while now. And alongside the webcams, we're going to place murals in every community throughout Lee County, not necessarily next to the webcams, but following suit with the webcams. It's a great partnership that we have with the Fort Myers Mural Society. The first mural, this one not done by the Mural Society, but will be unveiled in the downtown Fort Myers Library on April 1st. This is the global Roots Mural Mosaic, their America Connects program. And what you see here, this isn't our mural, but it gives you an idea about what to expect. So over 2,000 artists from all over the world have painted a tile. And they've submitted those tiles, and they'll be arranged in such a way to create the larger mural similar to what you see here. I believe there's a flyer on the table out here for more information. So our next neighborhood mural, actually produced by the Mural Society, will be on Pine Island, and then we will follow next with the North Fort Myers neighborhood. So that's my report this morning, and I'm glad to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thanks, Brian. I actually have a couple questions too, and I know some of our folks will as well. One of the questions I had, so what will our spend look like this year versus a traditional year?
Well, we're trying to optimize all of our spend to make sure we get the most value out of our marketing dollars as possible. Of course, in Q1, fiscal year Q1, our spend was almost non-existent. We did the right thing. We stopped all of our marketing, paused all of our marketing, and sort of recoiled. And then in Q2 that we're wrapping up now, we did turn our spend back on, but it was pretty much limited to social and paid search, some programmatic digital, video, and a little bit of print. But yeah, we're really ramping up the spend in summer, but it is a little bit down from where we've been in past years because we're trying to be smart and spend to revenue, which is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but we're really doing the best that we can.
So spending to revenue. And at what point, I know we built up a nice reserve. At what point do we feel like it'll be appropriate to start to tap that for maybe a campaign to bring people back? Probably not yet, obviously, but what are our thoughts? You got to be thinking.
$2.4 million question.
I love that. Yeah.
I mean, as more assets come back online, we want to spend smartly. It doesn't make sense to overspend when we have some lodging properties out of the loop, but we don't want to underspend either because we have a responsibility to all of our partners throughout the county. So it's a fine line that we walk, and we're open to any advice or guidance that the TDC might have for us as well.
And I think just to play on that a little bit, one thing we're doing is watching very carefully occupancy numbers. So, last week I think we were countywide at 84.4. That's down a smidge from the same week the previous year, but we're watching those numbers very closely. As we see softness in those numbers, then that tells us, hey, we need to push a little bit harder, right? So we are tracking this in a way to try to be as responsible as we can. I told you revenue was down 42%. To spend the dollars that are coming in the best way and making sure that what we're doing is driving those occupancy numbers and bringing visitors into the area. But to be clear, there's no we're not backing off. We're trying to be very careful and judicious in the way we spend this money and make sure we get the most bang for the buck.
Gotcha. The other thing I wanted to ask, I thought the creative was really attractive. I love it. One thing that, so the commissioners we get a chance to all represent different cities in our district. I happen to have, downtown Fort Myers and Cape Coral in my district. I hear a lot from my Cape Coral constituents about, obviously, the campaign is called My Fort Myers. What could we do to help maybe with locators in some of the creative to show that when we say My Fort Myers, we're talking about it as a region that includes Cape Coral, Estero, Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, all the different cities that we have. Is there a way, and I know there's a way, the answer's I'm sure yes, but how could we work in locators into some of our creative and some of our pictures there so that people know that as part of this My Fort Myers region, there are individual neighborhoods, as we call them?
It's interesting that you mentioned that because in our last campaign, we had actually started putting map locators on all of our creative. It was like a little pin that said, what you were seeing or the location you were seeing within that particular image. Here, with this campaign, we're really focusing on the people of the area and their stories. So I guess in my mind it felt not as relevant in the imagery because we were focusing on the people with the destination as the background. But I think as the destination recovers, it's a good point. We'll take a look at that and see if we can reincorporate some of those back into the placement.
But much of those videos, they were in multiple locations, so it's a little bit more difficult to do it in what we've done to this point. You know, like sometimes the person's at the airport and they're downtown and they were in various places in those pieces that we put together. But absolutely, the intent, and I think you see in the imagery and all the vertical video we're shooting, we are making a point to communicate that Fort Myers is the region, that these are all the cities, neighborhoods, communities within this area, and conveying that message, doing the what's open in Cape Coral or, where to go explore and putting those identifiers on them for sure.
Yeah. The other thing I would add there is that we have developed a lot of new editorial content around all of our neighborhoods. So, we drive traffic to our website, and one of the first things you see on the website as you explore the site is information about all the various neighborhoods within Lee County. So, we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, I think it's important, because, like I said, I'm just putting myself in the shoes of the folks like in Cape Coral. So it's a really interesting balancing act right now that we have, because obviously we know the devastation Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel are currently facing, and our hearts are broken for them, and we want to help them rebuild and get back on their feet as soon as possible. But however, we do have communities like Cape Coral, like Estero, like Bonita right now, who are largely back in business, and they want to accept tourism. They want to be promoted for tourism even. And so I'm hearing that from Cape Coral constituents that, okay, so we understand why the spend is down, but remember, some of us are open, we're here, we want to accept tourism, and we want to be promoted. And I think that's the candid feedback that I'm getting, and so I guess, I feel like it's my responsibility as their representative to bring that to the conversation today so that we can talk about and discuss how we help with some of those concerns that we have.
And I think you see the Cape Coral Quest, a great example of trying to drive visitors over to Cape Coral, giving them this exploration, a tool that they can use for that. I mean, I feel like we're doing that, but if they don't feel like we're doing it, then we're not doing it. That's the way it works, right? Perception is the rule. So let's make sure that we share and communicate those. I mean, I hope all these people are following all our social channels to see everything we're doing, because I believe we are doing that.
Well, and that's always been part of the challenge, because our marketing is outward facing.
Yeah, they don't see what we do, yeah.
Okay, Mayor Smith, I know you got some questions.
Is that for me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to tag on with Tam, because I know in any of the conversations that we're having, if it's news or something else, we're saying, hey, wait, we might be closed, but you know what, Lee County is open. So I am seeing an effort to just say, you know what, we're here, come and explore all of the other areas that you might not have been exposed to before because you're going just to the beaches. So I think but with Cape Coral, if there's a better way to do that now that things are opening, I think you're hearing loud and clear that they're going to do that. But I have seen a really strong effort to make sure there's more of Lee County that's being represented right now.
Good deal. Jay?
You stole my question, but that's the first thing I see is that I'm looking at a picture of what's obviously the Cape and obviously Malachet, and there's no tag. And at one point we had talked about, and I think Brian's words were a pin drop like you'd see in a map on Apple that would identify the location so that we know we're looking at the Cape, which is a neighborhood, and we're looking at Malachet, that's a neighborhood, and that was part of the big discussion when the change went to my Fort Myers from the beaches of Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, that would be one of the things that we do to push the neighborhoods, and it seems that it's dropped out already.
We'll definitely take a look at putting that back in, for sure.
Councilman Folek, and then we'll go Steinke. We'll just go right down the line.
Brian, two questions. One is the neighborhood webcams. Who coordinates with the cities, the expansion of those, and who do you coordinate with in the cities, the material, the content, the videos, the locations, photographs that are used?
So in terms of the webcams, Nancy McPhee on my team has been working with a contractor and our web team at MMGY. So any location assessment, she's been meeting with all the proper people, whether it be Parks and Rec or city officials, because we have to establish power and we have to establish the signal. And sometimes we get lucky, there's existing Wi-Fi that we can tap into, and sometimes we can't because, say, it's being used for credit card transactions and it's, secure. We wouldn't want to open it up just for the general public. So each of those locations has its special challenges, even more so if we have to get the state involved.
Probably it's the Parks and Rec folks in the city.
Yes, yes. Well, we've looked at a lot of county locations to try to, make it easier, but we're kind of sort of finding that it's a similar challenge even with the county for the same reasons, right? Just for availability of power and making sure that the Wi-Fi is done properly. And then your second question was about the...
It's who is coordinating both the neighborhood webcams and the material content that's going into your videos. You kind of answered it.
So the content for all the videos is the marketing team as a whole. So they've done a series of, what's open in Sanibel Part 1 and Part 2, what's open in Cape Coral, what's open in Fort Myers. But we have a ongoing content calendar that we work from to make sure we check boxes in terms of, let's make sure that the water story is covered, that the wildlife story is covered. Let's make sure that we're in Bonita today and North Fort Myers tomorrow and Pine Island the day after that. So we work on a big content calendar. Our agency provides some content, but as of late, with the Reels and the TikTok videos, our team are boots on the ground here capturing that content.
Understood, but really my question is for the municipalities is who on our end is coordinating with your team, both the marketing people?
We haven't coordinated with the municipalities directly on the videos. But we'd be open. I mean, if you have ideas or if someone at each municipality has some ideas to share with us, we are also always open.
Councilman Stein.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I just want to add a little bit. We work really closely with the chambers as well, and we get a lot of ideas and interaction from them, recommendations from them. I know we did our staff holiday learning experience down in Bonita Springs, and we work very closely with some folks from Bonita Springs, some tourism industry folks, but also chamber people and the Downtown Association and Historical Society, a group of people to kind of identify what are these things that, we should be featuring. So I want to be fair. We're not necessarily having a conversation with the municipality, but we are communicating with those leaders in your community that are doing those things. Sorry, just to keep going. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I met with some representatives from FEMA yesterday, and my understanding is that some of the temporary housing that was afforded folks will end at the end of this month, where they were supporting them in our hotel, motel accommodations, and unless that gets extended, then that will require a move out on their part, and as more of the trailers and the mobiles are set up for them to move into, that could give us a little bit of relief in vacancy numbers as it relates to, tourists feeling like there's a room available for them in the area. So we could get a bit of an evacuation from there that would help out that way. And the last is that, while we, some of our video things and the social media things that we do, if we found an error in that, we could, go and fix it relatively easily. The print advertising, I think it's important that we proof that really well, because I was really happy to see, and Tank shared with me, the bride guides where the Weston property in Cape Coral was the backdrop for that whole expose. And at the very end of it, it says all the photographs here were taken along the riverfront in Fort Myers. And so an opportunity to showcase Cape Coral in a very nice publication ended up not featuring Cape Coral, but instead saying that it was in Fort Myers.
So I think one part of that was Edison Ford Winter Estates was also part of that spread, so that may have been connected to that part of the shoot. I'll go back and take a look at that, see if we missed it.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman, or Mayor Allers, sorry.
Mine's more of an observation than a question. I think you guys have both touched on the questions that I had, but in watching your presentation, some of the things that give me pause is, although the beaches are rebuilding, I think we've done a very good job, and we worked very hard to make sure that the beach is open. It has been open for a while. We're currently trying to get all of our beach accesses open so that people that are staying in the greater Fort Myers area have a place to come down, because once they sit on the beach and they have their back to what the devastation is, they kind of forget that there was but it still brings them down to support our local businesses. And in your presentation, I really didn't see anything. Although we are rebuilding, I think the message should be clear that we are still open for business. We do still have people that are coming down. You know, I get, as a born and raised Minnesotan, it's been down here for 11 years now, I could tell you everybody in the Midwest really looks forward to coming down to the spring training and to the beaches. But I've received a lot of calls from people saying, are you guys even open? Are there any restaurants? Are there any hotels open, like Pink Shell's open? And all these places, I just don't want the messaging to get lost that while there is so much to see in the greater Fort Myers area, the beaches are open, and we want you to come down. We are open for business. We are rebuilding, but don't have the expectations. And I think you touched on that in your presentation. Don't have the full expectation that you had. But if we don't keep an eye on that, if we don't walk that fine line, people are going to go north, or they're going to go east, or they're going to go somewhere else, and trying not to lose that. I think, I think it was, what was his name? I missed it. Sorry. Peter Greenberg? You know, the hidden gems. I think a lot of the hidden gems now has transformed. If you go to Sanibel and you go to Fort Myers Beach now, there are so many of these pop-up businesses that have happened and been very, very creative. Those, to me, are now the hidden gems of the rebuild after the hurricane that I think will entice people to come down and see. There's several places, just being selfish here on Fort Myers Beach, that have created this really cool ambiance for people to come down and they're like, this is what we remember Fort Myers Beach being. This is what is enticing us to keep coming back and spending dollars down here. And then, we send them to Edison. We send them to the Twins games. We send them to all over. We send them to Estero. We send them to all these other places to enjoy the fine dining that we maybe don't have yet. But I know I'm being long-winded. I just don't want that fine line to be forgotten.
And please hear me loud and clear. We want nothing more than to be able to promote those areas, and have been. We gave you 2 examples. We run video at 5 or 6 videos a week, and every day, there's videos out, and you saw 2 examples. There's been plenty of features on what's open at Fort Myers Beach, and as things reopen, and same for Sanibel and Captiva, we have been doing that. So I think the tricky part is, how do we communicate to you what we are doing? I strongly encourage you to follow our social media channels so you see those postings. But if you would like, we will make sure that we are literally sending you, here's what we did in this area this month.
You did mention that you're working with the local chambers, but are you working with our local PIOs that are in our offices that share things through our social media platforms? We have a lot of people that share and ask a lot of questions, and they're paying close attention to the rebuild. They may not be paying attention to the chamber, but they're paying attention to the town now, or the municipalities now, to see how the rebuild's coming. Are people getting back in their homes? Are these businesses opening?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about each town, even Lee County government has its own
PIO.
social media, PIO and social media presence now. If we look at those as extensions of our voice, and those I think would be free placements really. But it's almost what I'm hearing is that we could look at the idea of creating a newsletter that weekly goes to the municipalities, their PIOs specifically, and the PIOs could distribute it through their organizations to the electeds and anybody else who needs to see it. But in that newsletter, you kind of prove performance. You kind of show, here's the creative we released this week, and here's what it did. And you give those people a chance to see the stuff that maybe they're not seeing because obviously they're in market, not out of market.
That's the challenge.
I
You
think-
don't see what we do for you because you're watching other things.
But that newsletter.
I don't know about weekly. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, but frequently, yeah.
We could hire one more person. I don't know. Figure it out.
So, we have a community engagement team, and you touched on that. We have Betsy Clayton, who's our PIO, as well as Katie Welton, who is our digital media director. They do talk with all of the PIOs. So what I could suggest is I'll get with that team and see about doing some outreach to all of the PIOs because there's an extensive network, including all of the municipals, and make sure that each of your PIO teams right now are aware of all the appropriate social media marketing tools and our digital media content, all of our social media platforms, so that they can see and monitor as part of, because they monitor sites all the time. So we'll make sure that they're at least right now, that's something we can do quickly, is get them, make sure that they have all the accurate information. We can coordinate with the communication, the VCB communication team, and at least make sure that right now they know what channels that they should be monitoring. Yeah. And then that team can coordinate with BCB to see if there's some other low-hanging fruit as far as making sure that people are connected with all of the efforts that BCB are doing. So I think there's some quick things we can turn around, and then we'll be able to come back with some additional feedback for the next meeting for sure.
I certainly appreciate that. I think, a lot of people that follow me, for instance, or follow Holly, or follow anyone else here at this table may not go to the VCB, or they may not go to the chamber. So if we can take and copy and paste things on ours, I'm all about anything you can get for free. And
right.
And, I may have 100 people back in Minnesota that follow me, but don't necessarily follow the VCB. And if I can share it, it may spark something. Not everybody that's a farmer in Minnesota.
That's the power of it.
So anything we can do free to be able to attach this information that you guys are working so hard on and spread it out through our social media, I think that just makes that net much bigger.
And I know you haven't been able to join us the last couple of months, but we've talked a lot about our What's Open pages on our website and such, and all of that was driving people to those businesses that were open. So, we kind of moved on from the, what's open. Not that we're not still doing it, we are, but today we weren't sharing that because we shared that in December, so just so you know.
Mayor Smith?
It's a big focus.
And I just want to say that it's always a two-way street, because you all have to know what we have open. I mean, we've got beaches opening more and more, but it's our responsibility as well to let you know what are open, because just, a few weeks ago, we only had 2 major beaches open. Now we have several. One of them is our Lee County partnered beach. So two-way street for us to say, hey, this is important. How we get that, we're having a little lesson here on making sure that communication is open, so we can both benefit and Lee County can.
Yeah.
And similarly, we hold weekly industry calls. I would encourage your PIOs to sit in on those weekly industry calls. They're at 9 a.m. every Thursday morning. We do that. If we're not having a TDC meeting, we're having a call. So every Thursday at 9 a.m. we do those calls. It's just a conference call, not a video call. Down and dirty, let's talk. Is there something we need to share? And we share it. We also have guest speakers who give us information on what's going on in the area beyond what is happening at the VCB, but might be of relevance. And I know the industry partners have really appreciated those calls. Perhaps the municipalities would like to participate in those calls. And if you want to be a guest speaker at a call, we want to have you as a guest speaker at the call. That's great. I mean, we're always looking for opportunities. Commissioner Hammond joins us when his schedule allows, and it's a great opportunity for you to share information with the hotel industry.
I like that. Any further comments? Mr. Lappy?
Going back to the webcams in the neighborhoods, a couple of thoughts just sort of pop up into my mind. I understand why we have a traffic cam. You get to see it's fixed. You see where the traffic's going all the time. It doesn't move. It's kind of what it is. And I'm sure, Bill, you got your cam over on the beach looking out. My cam looks out the sunset. My question is the position of these cams. Are they going to be monitored by the number of people that chime in to see this? Do we have a way of monitoring that? I mean, in a neighborhood, what are you going to focus on? I don't know. That was my question. I mean, it's hard for me to sort of get my arms around the webcam in a neighborhood because the neighborhood is so vast and you're only looking at one point. So, one, are we going to monitor this to see how it performs or how many people go to see it?
So yes, so the software that comes with these cams is very cool. We'll get all the metrics on it. Something else that's very cool is the cams can be set up to move to a particular point of interest. We can also give the user control, which is a little scary. We're not going to have anybody have Zoom capabilities. But it's certainly panning capabilities for, I think it defaults to a minute, or we can set it to whatever it is. But as an example, we have one of our first cams is at Rotary Park in the Butterfly Garden. We have a cam that we're looking at for Manatee Park. We have one on the rooftop of Sidney Byrne Davis Art Center here downtown. We are looking at a cam at Blind Pass out on the islands. And we were also working in Bonita, trying to get something done at Riverside Park, though we hit a little speed bump there, so we may be at the Wonder Gardens. So this is the kind of thing, not all beach and water views like we've had so many of, but truly like here's something, you know, special or unique to this particular neighborhood, and it creates a sense of place and gives a potential visitor the opportunity to get a glimpse of what they can experience even before they make a trip here.
That's helpful. Thanks, Mark.
Welcome, Tony.
Mr. Wells?
Just, sorry to keep adding, but, you know, all the beach cams are, if your beach cam is back on, it's back on our site. So those things we've always had featured your individual beach cams where we could. But this is a way to show that the community has other assets that they can explore.
I just wanted to, how we monitor it, and that's all I wanted to see today. I mean, certainly if you see one that's getting hit all the time, and that's great. Maybe one doesn't, maybe it needs to be moved. I don't know, just a thought.
I hear you.
New concept and new way of doing things, so we will be monitoring very closely.
And we'll be promoting them, in our social posts and through our e-newsletters and all sorts of different ways. So once they're launched and whatnot, maybe by the time the next meeting where I'm presenting rolls around, I'll have some early numbers to share with you.
Mr. Wells?
This may be a best question for Mayor Smith. You had a Sanibel-bound series of these cameras, and I'm sure they were just destroyed. Or is there a plan to get those back online?
Yeah, they've been working on it right now. So we've just been waiting to make sure that we can get the gear and the guts to get those going. But actually, when I came on island, one of our IT people were working by the chamber camera. So hopefully that's, prioritizing is what we need to do, and also supply of what we can get to get those, because it's not just the camera, it's going to do it as well. So yeah, we'll let you know when those are back up and running.
Thank you.
Just
great conversation. Oh, Mr. Wachulis, yeah.
just for it's more going to fall into next year's budget, but it's for us out on the islands. This year is like, how do I not lose a lot of money just getting by? But 24 is going to be, we're all back. I mean, a lot of us are going to be fully back. So that fourth quarter, which will be the first quarter of the budget, I mean, we got to hit the gas pedal hard to be ready to go January, February, March with occupancy. So my only advice is really look at that when we get to doing the budgeting, we look at really hitting the gas pedal in October, November, December. So.
And I, even, back to Councilman Steinke's comments about FEMA, we've been waiting for that time when there is a little more room in terms of occupancy. One of the challenges I hear from people is I can't find a room. So, when we're out there using marketing dollars to say, come, and they can't find a room, that's a little bit of a challenge, right? We want that kind of demand, don't get me wrong, but it is tricky on this side to make sure that we're pushing when we actually have rooms available. Yeah. So that gives us, again, back to, ramping up our spending, that gives us an opportunity to do it. And Bill, we're going to go to IPW in May, and, the big conversation is going to be anticipate, more beachfront properties open in 2024, and that's our intent to push.
Yeah, the FEMA moving out is not good for some of the hotels out on the beach. So
yeah, we're
using that as a crutch right now to get by. So them moving them out of the beach is, it's keeping us, a lot of the hotels afloat.
And as the chair of the commission, I did sign a letter requesting that to be extended because we realize there are many residents who need that service right now because they're not repaired. And so have we heard any feedback on the extension?
No, thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner. I was just checking my emails because I do have the letter that you signed, and I was just checking to see if we've gotten a response back. Not seen a response come back, but when we get back to the office, we'll put some feelers out.
So, we're coming up on March 28, which is the 6-month from landfall date. I booked a trip to go to Washington, D.C. with our new federal lobbyists that we've hired at the county next week to try and go and meet with the agencies and meet with our delegation in Florida here at the federal level to try and make sure that, anything that we need to really push on in order to get extended for our residents to help them recover from this, we push on that, and also kind of set the path forward for the next 6 months. I mean, my goal is to get us to functional, and then once you're functional, you can get to restoral, and restoral is going to come, like Bill was even alluding to, 2024 timeframe. Yeah, we're gonna be back. That's exciting, and so there's a lot we have to do along the way to make sure that the federal government is so big. They obviously have to think about the whole country, make sure they don't forget us here. So, yeah. All right, thanks, Mr. Steinke, and then Mr. Wells.
Thank you. I would just remind the council that there are individual citizens, obviously, that we're here to represent, the business owners and the citizens of our community, and there's many of them that have purchased homes for rental, for occupancy, and what I know of, obviously, I pay attention to Cape Coral. There's almost, if you were to go to some of the sites where you can get those individual homeowners that own homes to rent, there's 7,000 opportunities there in Cape Coral. So I don't know what the numbers are for Fort Myers and in other areas, but we certainly owe it to them as individual business owners to help attract people by drawing attention to the fact that you don't necessarily need a high-rise hotel to find a place to come and experience our area. So there might be some type of edification that we could give in our promotions, all of the homes that are available to stay in here for people that want to live on the water while they visit and things like that. So it's certainly a calling card that we have that we collect bed tax for.
I was going to say, we worked hard to collect bed tax from those.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well,
And also promote that there are vacation rentals. That's part of our promotional effort. So, and have always been. This has always been a very heavy vacation home area. I mean, I know it's even more so now as our community grows, but we've always had more vacation rentals than many destinations, not only in the country, but in the state. My estimation pre-Hurricane Ian was about 19,000 units. So, which is significantly more hotel rooms than we have. We have about 13,000. I'm doing round numbers, please. Hotel rooms, and to put that, I should say, in context, it is a huge part not only of our community but of the attractiveness of our area to consumers. And I can tell you, I was just in Germany at a big international travel show called ITB. And every single tour operator wants to know how they can connect with more vacation rental home providers, which is an inordinate challenge. The vacation home providers really struggle to work with the international market. And so, I would love to have anyone listening out there that has vacation rentals and wants to work in the international market. They are craving those vacation rental homes. So,
Legally registered.
Of course, all of those things. Yes.
Thank you
But I am saying to you, we try to make those connections, but a lot of the vacation home rental companies really do not are not as interested in working in the international markets. But I think it's a huge opportunity for our community. So that's just one example. But the demand for vacation rental homes, we saw it soar during the pandemic. And while I think those, in fairness, we say we have 7,000 units, but you go to book them, a lot of them are unavailable. That's back to those key data numbers showing very low occupancy. You go and there's a lot of lists, but you go to try to book and they're all blocked out. I think they're doing home repairs just like many of us are doing in our own homes, and until they're back online, it's really difficult to get your arms around that market, but it's a very important market for this community.
Very good. All right, let's see. I know we're getting close, we're after 10 o'clock here. We still have a report from our sports development director. Do we have any final comments to wrap it up? I think I saw a hand from Mr. Johnson and Mr. Wells.
I was just going to talk on vacation rentals, to Tam's point. We are seeing a lot of international that are booking vacation rentals in the Cape that are contacting us for catering for that. I mean, we have a lot of weddings in little vacation rental houses that we're doing now. The 20, 30 types, they're all coming, renting a big house and houses in the neighborhood and doing their wedding in the backyard of a vacation rental. We see a couple of those a month, and we're working with people internationally from Germany via email and Scandinavia.
Demand is there.
Absolutely.
Demand is there.
It may be worth it, well, one of these future meetings, just spending a little time on some of the numbers that we're seeing, just so that we can all, take a closer look. You've got a 44% decrease in your bed tax monthly year over year. In January, you're holding a great number in Star. There's probably some things with that. I don't know if is there a list of hotels that contribute to Star to the public, or is that private information?
The ones that are closed won't show up in the Star, so if you see 80% occupancy, it's really not 80% occupancy if you had them all in.
My assumption would be a lot of inland properties probably post a Star, so it doesn't necessarily reflect what might be happening in coastal communities. But it may be worth just, taking a little bit of time to review some of that in one of our future meetings. And I think it'd be the same with a percentage. I know they don't list specifically where these vacation rentals are, but you could probably get an idea of who's reporting and who's not, who's offline on those, so that as we go back, we can look at each of these communities a little closer to see kind of where everybody's tracking as far as the percentage of available occupancy.
That's good.
Are you saying Star data by area? Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I understand your question. Well, we can talk offline, but
I just think that probably within these numbers and within the county, there's probably different varying levels of success or failure based on how much destruction was in those areas. And as we come back with our marketing campaigns and everything, just taking a closer look so everybody knows, are these numbers good or bad, kind of where we're tracking. It might be worth spending some time on.
we've worked really closely with Star to make sure that the units that we know are open, they know are open. That is an impossible challenge in terms of the vacation rentals. If you have a way for me to do that, I want to talk about it. I think what's happened is, especially in the damaged homes, the last thing they're thinking about is pulling down their Airbnb listing. So that listing is open, but they've blocked out the dates. So there's a picture of that unit, but it's on the Airbnb site or on the VRBO site, but it's not available. And so that's why those key data numbers look so dramatically different. It's probably 33% of the full amount is occupied, but is it truly available? Whereas I am confident, based on our working relationship with Star, that what you see from Star is based on available units in the community, if that makes sense. And then when you talk about who participates in Star and who doesn't, that's the reason we've always done our own occupancy research, and DSG does that for us. And we have we could probably do, it's a little tricky about the breakdown, but we probably could do at least coastal versus inland kind of a breakdown on occupancy very easily and share that in our next report. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Great.
Okay. All right. Well, that was I really appreciated the discussion there. I think that's why you have a meeting, so you can talk about all these things. So thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to recognize Sports Development Director Jeff Milkey for the report of the Sports Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Council. Well, we'll go through this fairly quickly, but leads right into very similar discussions that you've all had this morning already, except more on a niche sports tourism level, is that those of you who've been on those calls that Tam has referenced, you've heard us from the very beginning say that we wanted sports tourism to come back in the right way. We had people lined up, ready to come back into our community, and we wanted it to be a responsible driver of economic impact, bringing the right amount of business back when parts of our community were ready for it, knowing that we are experiencing recovery rates at different varying levels around our community. So that's what we tried to do is we really tried to engage events, especially in October, none in October, November, December, and even into January, that we felt was responsible in bringing to our community. So as we go through this presentation, I hope you'll keep that in mind. So again, no activity in October, so you'll see a 0 on October 2022. As we went into November 2022, we hosted 3 events, but 2 of those events were critically important, and we worked with county leadership, and we felt it was the right time to put these 2 events on because they were national in scope. One was the Fort Myers Tip-Off, which again, much credit really to the hotel that hosted the events. Barry with the Westin, thank you so much for working with them. Nationally televised, they work with our community, or worked with our Visitor and Convention Bureau and our marketing team to put out a recovery message. Not only was there a recovery message, but then they extended, our normal contract is 3 commercials per televised game. They extended it to 5, and half of those commercials throughout that Thanksgiving week was about recovery, and the other half were about thank you to all of our first responders. And not only Lee County's first responders, but all the first responders throughout the state and the United States that came in and helped our community. So it was a really impactful message. And then the Gulf Coast Showcase took place down at the Hyatt. And again, credit to Brian Kramer and his team for getting that property open, and Hertz was hosting it. And so you had a lot of collegiate exposure in our community, even so quickly after the devastation. So I think that helped spread that very first message that, hey, we took a punch, but we're still open and we're going to recover. So then, if you go to December, we had a few more events. We still canceled the bigger ones, the ones that we felt again were not responsible, trying to push into our community. The events that took up a lot of hotel rooms that were still occupied by our recovery workers. So we took much smaller events in December. You can see almost 8,000 hotel room nights, a direct spend of almost $3 million. One of those, the bigger ones, was the City of Palms Basketball Classic, which again is a legacy event in our community. It's important, it's nationally recognized, and we felt that we should do everything we can to support that event. And then some smaller events. We had a BMX event in Cape Coral, which was successful. The Florida International Hockey, again, was at Hertz Arena. The facility had to be open and operational and operational for these events to happen. So those were our last 2 events of 2022. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the dip in December. But there's a really cool story that we'll tell here in a second. If you'll go to the next slide, please. So our 2022 highlights for the whole year. So, there were some amazing things that happened in our community through sports tourism up through October. We ended up at 150,000 room nights filled, direct visitor spend of $62 million, 130 events hosted. We set historical records 3 months. Again, it's hard for this town to bring in new sports events that are large enough to set historical monthly records, and yet we were able to set a new record in January, in May, and in July. And just to give you a snapshot forward, we are continuing our international pursuits, with talking to national teams about training here. As you all remember, the Canadian women's softball team trained here before the Olympics, and they went and won a bronze medal. And then we're really spending a significant amount of our effort telling the sports tourism world that Lee County is open for business and that we will continue to recover. Again, different parts of our community will recover at different rates, but we are on our way back. And so then, just to give you an idea of where we were tracking, we were on a record pace through September compared to 2021, which was our best year ever. We were up 20,000 room nights at the end of September, which was a 17% increase over that previous year. And we were on pace to break 200,000 room nights. Had October, November, and December been normal years like we had seen in 2021, we would have surpassed that 200,000 room night, which which is something that we were proud of. We have so many amazing partners in this community that have helped bring sports tourism to the level that it is. Parks and Recreation, just phenomenal partners of ours. Allison's in the room with our sports organizing committee, helps us with our housing needs when needed. All of the different hoteliers that really step up and who really rely on sports tourism at different times of the year, they're all part of that story about potentially, for us to have almost, have hit 200,000 room nights in a year is I just think is a great story to tell. So those last 3 months, we missed out on 50,000 room nights that we normally bring in here. A lot of them were smaller events, but two significant events that we weren't able to bring in was the Perfect Game World Wood Bat at 12,000, and that's just an October event that goes over a 4-day weekend. And then the Roy Hobbs World Series was unfortunately could not happen, and that was an 18,000 room night piece of business. So, those two events alone are worth 30,000 of those 50,000 room nights. So, I just wanted to give you a snapshot of where we were heading before Ian hit and where we're going to go again. And I'm confident that these events are going to be loyal to our community. We are continuing to work so closely with county leadership to find opportunities to make sure that we're maximizing responsibly putting business in this community as it's needed. So, and my final thing I'll say is, as everyone knows, we're in the midst of one of our favorite times of year is spring training, and it's going really well. I know Mark Weber's in the room. They've enjoyed several sellouts, Minnesota Day, the Yankees game. The Red Sox have certainly had some sellouts. So I think we've seen a really good recovery with our tourism product, spring training really having a significant positive impact on our community. And a lot of those people in those stands are visitors. They're not locals. So that would be my report. Oh, I'm sorry. The historical room night trend, you can see, even though we dropped those 50,000 room nights out of the last 3 months, we still sat at 150, which was a great year considering everything that we've been through. And so thanks to everyone around the table for your support and always keeping a watchful eye on our sports tourism efforts. So,
love that. All right.
I just wanted to comment. I think that's such a great example of, and it's been, I guess, plays onto this earlier conversation we were having about diversification in our efforts here on the TDC. Over the years, you hear so many things. The beach people always are like, more focus on sports, and then a municipality, I want more focus on me. But we all need to have like these certain things that we can market over time, because you see, like in a situation like this where sports are kind of shining, inland properties have shined. It's been tough on the properties that are on the coast. As a small example, oddly enough, the fishing community, they didn't seem to mind that the palm trees were beat up, right? They just heard there's less boaters out there in my spot, so they were the ones booking with us for a couple of months. So just as you sit around the table, I think it's important for all of us to keep in mind that to have a real diversified product is key moving forward, and I think the sports numbers are probably an example of that this last year.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
I have a quick question. First of all, outstanding numbers, even given the hurricane. But my question had to do with Perfect Game and Roy Hobbs. Did those events happen elsewhere, or did they not have them at all?
They did not happen elsewhere. Perfect Game, that event was right up to the hurricane, and so there was not enough time to react. We did replace several, or help relocate several Perfect Game events that normally happened in December, and they're fairly large events for us. We helped them relocate those to the East Coast, so they did have their December events. Roy Hobbs really tried, but their event is so large, and there just aren't a lot of communities out there that have the number of fields that are required to run Roy Hobbs at that level, and we just could not find another location that didn't already have business in place that could take on that large of a product. So his event, unfortunately, did not happen. However, he has shifted some of his lost business from October, November into currently. Right now, he's running the Sunshine Classic, which is in February and March, and he has pushed and pulled some of those teams that did not play in October, and they're still here, and they're now visitors right now, and we're visitors all through February. So although we didn't replace that exact product, we've replaced some of his visitors a couple months later.
Thank you.
Any further comments or discussion? All right, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Milkey. Great report. Our next item is under old business. So as your chairman at our last meeting, I accepted a motion from an ex officio member. Shame on me. I needed to accept a motion from a voting member on the appointment of the TDC Attractions and Events Marketing Subcommittee. And so at this time, we just need to reapprove what we already approved at the last meeting. So do I have a voting member, Mr. Wells, to make the motion for approval? And Mr. Johnson seconds that. Do we have any discussion on that? Ms. Cronin?
You don't show up, you're on.
Oh, yeah,
We don't have a chair, but
you were voluntold. Right, absolutely.
I will do my best to be helpful, and there's just a little time in May that if it conflicts that I won't be able to, but I love those committees. So,
We know you do. That's where we raised your hand.
Thank you for serving on that, Ms. Cronin. All right, any further discussion on that then? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. And we've made it easier for me in the future now, so we have maroon name tags for the ex officio members and black name tags for the voting members. So it's going to work out. Yeah. Listen, it's all good. We handled it. Anything for council information, Ms. Pygott?
There's a slew of information in your packet, some interesting articles I think you'll find of value, but also your full 2020 report is in there, and I did point out to Mr. Johnson the breakdown on the change in the West in there. It's on one of the pages in there. We got that flight, I think, in 2020. It was a pandemic gift to us, and you do see a jump. I think we were at 3% in 18, 5% in 19, and then it went to 7% once we got the flight. Probably would have done a little bit better this year if we had our last quarter of visitation in its normal sense, but we're happy to see those West numbers going up. Also in there is something you have not seen before. We have DSG doing a consumer sentiment study for us. We're doing several waves of that. The first wave of that, we're doing this in partnership with our friends in Collier County, saves us a little bit of money on the cost of doing that research. But the first consumer sentiment report is in there, and you're welcome to peruse that. In addition, there's also a really nice deck on consumer insights from U.S. travel. I know those aren't as valuable to us right now, but keeping an eye on what's going on in the rest of the country in terms of what consumers are demanding is of value. So lots of information in your packet.
Very good. Any comments or questions on that? All right, let's go on to the TDC member items. I always like to start with Ms. Cronin.
Thank you. I don't have anything, but it's just happy to see that things are starting to pick up again and people are optimistic, and that's great to see in our community.
Awesome. Mayor Smith?
I have a little bit. I'll try to go quickly. First, we had our relighting of our lighthouse on February 28th, and I want to thank the VCB. We had to keep it a secret, not knowing if it would even happen, and they were ready there and were able to get that message out to the world. So that was really hopeful for all of us. And Ray, I just got to tell you, Ray has been around quite a bit. Ray, Cersina, right? Cersina. What a jewel you have in that man, and how he is really working to really keep the message going out with all of his contacts with so many news agencies on every aspect of where we are and how we're focusing on the Fort Myers area as well, and other areas. So thank you. And our slogan is Shine on Sanibel, hashtag Shine on Sanibel. We'd love to see that in some of our information. I know, Tam, you're leaning into
Well, embarrassingly, on my desk, I have the front page of the Orlando Sentinel, which ran on page 1A the images from the lighthouse. We got, sometimes you're good and sometimes you're lucky. We had an Orlando Sentinel reporter in town that we were hosting, and when the mayor let us know that we could have access to this event, we took not only him, but a reporter we had in from the UK Sun as well, Bill Leckie, and both of them have covered the relighting of that lighthouse. And, I think for us, again, that's that message of hope, and, that this community is not only coming back, but we are moving forward at lightning speed with our efforts.
Yeah.
And I have a copy for you, Mayor. I will make sure it gets brought down.
Thank you. Barry had to sneak out, but, I just wanted to, when we talked to you, you talked about the Westin, and my son's wedding was there. Couldn't have been more perfect. Thank you. It's great to see that every place that is able to operate the exceptional service that they're providing for everyone that comes here, and I think that's happening more and more. I was asking Bill before he left how many weddings they have typically in a year, and he was saying about 100, and these venues, the more they're opening up, they're going to be coming back. Everybody wants to get back to Southwest Florida. As many of you know, yesterday, Washington, D.C., the Deputy Secretary Todman was down on Fort Myers Beach announcing funding opportunities to the tune of $1.1 billion to Southwest Florida. Typically, that goes at the state level, but they have jumped through that. It's coming through the county because it's CBDG money. But their main priority is making sure the municipalities that are in need have access to those funds. So there'll be more details coming out on that, and there'll be action plans that each of the municipalities will have to provide to get access to that funding. So this was a huge funding opportunity for all of Southwest Florida. And again, it will funnel through the county, but it is specifically looking at those areas in need. An item I wanted to let everybody be aware of, of course, legislative session is active right now. There is a TDT bill out there. It's HB 309 and Senate Bill 40. It hasn't had any legs yet, but it is wanting to allow TDC funding to be used for other expenses in coastal communities. So basically that wraps all the way down one coast and all the way up the other. So we need to keep an eye on that. We have specific uses for our TDC monies that's collected in our bed tax. And once you start to have a crawl, to me, there's a concern. I'm not sure if you're watching that one yet, but it is allowing for other emergency expenses. So just keep an eye on those, please. And then finally, I will say that if any of you watch basketball, our own FGC women have made it to the NCAA finals. First round, I'm sorry, not finals. First round, so that will be broadcast on ESPNU at 2:30 on Saturday. So congratulations to those women. It's huge, and I hope that we all give them the support that they need. It was great seeing Dr. Martin with such enthusiasm about that game coming up. So with that's my
Jeff, did you have
comments.
Yeah, I apologize. I missed in my report, along with the FGC women, Marquette, which played this last fall as a number 2 seed in the men's bracket, and 2 teams that we have playing in the fall, Virginia and West Virginia, are also both in the tournament. So I apologize for forgetting that.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Mayor Smith said everything I had to cover.
There you go. Mr. Fuller?
Just for expediency's sake, Mayor Smith covered that really well. We're very excited. That started off our council meeting yesterday, which is why we weren't there. But the other thing is our progression as a city is coming along either ahead of schedule or at schedule. We're excited about that because that return to normalcy, everybody wants to see that.
Very good. Mr. Steinke?
Well, thank you. Cape Coral is rocking. If you've not been there, go there. In 2018, we approved a $60 million goal bond to enhance the neighborhood parks, bring new parks to the city. Obviously, once the funding was available, approved 2018, you go out and you do your planning and your engineering, and right about the time all that came back to get started, COVID happened, put things on pause. Just got started and hurricane happened, but I'm happy to report that we have many of those parks They're having the ribbon cuttings here in the weeks to come. A very important groundbreaking is happening. It is a great cooperative effort between Fort Myers and Cape Coral, and that is our Caloosahatchee Connect program, basically sharing resources and needs between the cities. The Sounds of Jazz and Blues was promoted earlier. Cape Bike Night is in Cape Coral this month. That's April 8th, and we'll have our inaugural Culture Fest to be held at Cultural Park on April 22nd. So if you want a fun place to go to see some things you haven't been able to see before, come over to Cape Coral and join us. Nice and fun.
A lot going on. Awesome. Mayor Allers.
I'll be brief. Mayor Smith was so eloquent in stealing some of my thunder there. Thank you for doing that. Nobody wants to hear me talk as much as they probably want to hear you talk. So thank you for covering a lot of that. Just a quick update about where the beach is at. As I said earlier, we've got a lot of businesses that have, made me very proud. They've stepped up and they've bucked the FEMA engine, if you will, and found creative ways to get around things that FEMA said they couldn't do, and be able to open back up to welcome the people that are in the greater Fort Myers area to come in and spend some money and spend the day on the beach and have some fun. So I just want to say there are businesses. I think we're over a dozen now that are open. I think Bill's place is completely open now, and some other places that are opening up. So, we encourage you to come. As I've probably said 1,000 times, if you do come to visit, just take back with you what you brought down. People have spent a lot of time and a lot of hard work and energy to make sure that the beach is clean and keeping it clean. And if you bring the garbage down, please take it with you. That's a very big thing. We will have all the beach accesses open fairly soon, so we'll have places for people to come and enjoy the beach and spread out. Other than that, that's about all I got.
Very good. Councilman Faisal.
Well, as you know, Estero doesn't have any beaches, but we think that's about to change. There'll be more on that soon. I unfortunately have listened to the evening news. We've had such a great marketing report update today and all positive talk. But I think our news media is kind of letting us down a little bit with some negative stories that are driving people away. And I had an opportunity this week to visit the beach for the first time in quite a while. I have a granddaughter down from up north that wanted to go to the beach, as they do when they come here. We were a little reluctant because of what we were hearing on the TV about all the piles of dead fish and putting dead fish illegally behind the city hall and all kinds of things that we heard. But we did go to the beach. We were down at Bonita, and I was extremely pleased and happy to see the condition of the beach. The sand was there with no dead fish, no red tide, clean. So it was a very good experience compared to what I've been hearing on TV. So I hope that the local TV media will catch up with the optimism of our marketing report and promote this area a little bit more in a positive way than I think they've been doing recently.
Thank you for your comments.
But more on the beach in Estero.
I'm excited to hear about that. Absolutely. Mr. Wells?
I just appreciate the open dialogue the council's taking on, especially over the last couple of meetings. It's so important for us to come together and share our experiences and opinions from various places and work constructively to market this area as best we can. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Wells. Mr. Lappy?
On a closing note, I just want to know what Jeff Milkey's filled out his bracket and how it works. That's what I want to know.
Well played, well played.
That's all I got.
That's awesome. Yeah, the perennial winner probably in that.
What they say the odds that you win is
Me too.
winning 2 Powerballs. You have a better
Oh, wow.
you have a better chance of winning 2 Powerballs than you do the bracket. So good luck.
Wow. Well, seeing no further business before us then, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks, for a great meeting.
Thank you.
Well,